Hi guys, it's Miss Karen, the Young Adult Librarian at the Goshen Public Library. And we made it to Friday, which means it's time for another 5 on Friday. And because April is National Poetry Month, I decided that this week is the perfect week to feature 5 YA books from our collection that are written in verse, which means that they're fictional stories, or at least fictionalized stories, and they're written entirely in poetry form. So let's get started. The first one is called Voices, The Final Hours of Joan of Arc, and it's by David Elliott. And this book tells us, a small book too, if you're looking for a quick read. This one tells us the story of the last days of Joan of Arc. Who was Joan of Arc? Warrior, witch, sinner, saint. Before she was any of these, before she heard the first angel speak, before she died, Joan was just a girl. So this book has poems written in lots of different forms like that. It's called The Crown. There's one called Joan. And they tell the story of the last hours of Joan of Arc. There's one called Victory. It is definitely a quick read. It's also really interesting. There's one called The Stake, and it's in the shape of the stake. So this is a great read, especially if you like history. So Voices, the final hours of Joan of Arc. Sorry. Okay, the next book I have is called Punching the Air, and it's by Ibi Zoboi and Yusuf Salam. This is a newer title. It came out in 2020. The story that I thought was my life didn't start on the day I was born. Amal Shahid has always been an artist and a poet, but even in his diverse art school, because of a biased system, he's seen as disruptive and unmotivated. Then one fateful night, an altercation in a gentrifying neighborhood escalates into tragedy. Boys just being boys turns out to be true, only when those boys are white. The story that I think will be my life starts today. Suddenly, at just 16 years old, Amal is convicted of a crime he didn't commit and sent to prison. Despair and rage almost sink him until he turns to the refuge of his words, his art. This never should have been his story, but can he change it? With spellbinding lyricism, award-winning author Ibi Zoboi and prison reform activist Yusuf Salam tell a moving and deeply profound story about how one boy is able to maintain his humanity and fight for the truth in a system designed to strip him of both. So this is a very timely book, and like I said, it is written entirely in poem form. So there are different size poems, different shape poems, but all the poems tell the story of Amal Shahid. So, Punching the Air by Ibi Zoboi and Yusuf Salam. Okay. Next, we have a book for those of you who like sports, because there are sports books also written in poetry form. This one's called Booked, and it's by Kwame Alexander. And if you had to guess, what do you think? I think it's about soccer. Let's see. Like lightning, you strike fast and free. Legs zoom downfield, eyes fixed on the checkered ball, on the goal. 10 yards to go. Can't nobody stop you. Can't nobody cop you. Nobody can stop Nick Hall. He's a star on the soccer team, cruising in school and getting ready to ask out the girl of his dreams. But then a bombshell announcement shatters his world. Follow Nick's next moves in this electric and heartfelt novel in verse by Kwame Alexander that bends and breaks as it captures all the thrills and setbacks, action and emotion of a World Cup match. So, again, all written in poetry form. Lots of sports, lots of action, lots of good poems. All right, next on my list is a memoir, and it's called Shout, and it's by Laurie Halse Anderson. For those of you who've read Speak, this is sort of a companion book to Speak, and it is a memoir of Laurie Halse Anderson's life growing up. A memoir in poetry by one of the most crucial activists for sexual assault survivors writing today. When she was 13 years old, Laurie Halse Anderson was a shy, bookish girl who was raped by a boy she trusted. Today she's known as the New York Times best-selling author of Speak and many other novels. a 2-time National Book Award nominee, and an advocate and activist. In this powerful and searing book of free verse, Anderson tells the story she's never shared publicly before. What happened to her as a teenager, the path to recovery she built herself, and how she turned her pain into art that would go on to help millions of readers the world over. This book is for anyone who has ever been lost, ignored, silenced, abused, assaulted, harassed, talked down to, made to feel small, or knows someone who has. It's for the writers and the readers, the dreamers, story weavers, poem collectors, song traders, word eaters. It's for the heartsick and the hope-filled, the furious and the fierce, the creators of call-outs, and anyone with the courage to say me too, whether aloud, online, or only in your heart. The moment to speak has passed. Now it's time to shout. This is an excellent, excellent read about a very, very serious topic. So I highly recommend it. It's very easy to read. It's written in free verse, and it'll definitely make you think. So that's Shout by Laurie Halse Anderson. And my final 5 on Friday book this week is called The Poet X, and it is by Elizabeth Acevedo. It won the National Book Award, so you know it's definitely a good read. Xiomara Batista feels unheard and unable to hide in her Harlem neighborhood. Ever since her body grew into curves, she has learned to let her fists and her fierceness do the talking. But Xiomara has plenty she wants to say, and she pours her frustration onto the pages of a leather notebook, reciting the words to herself like prayers, especially after she catches feelings for a boy in her bio class. With Mommy's determination to force her daughter to obey the laws of the church, she understands that her thoughts are best kept to herself. When she is invited to join her school's poetry slam, she knows that she would never get around Mommy's rules to attend, much less speak her words out loud. But still, she can't stop thinking about performing her poems, because in spite of a world that may not want to hear her, Xiomara refuses to be silent. So, Poet X is a really, really wonderful book. I loved it when I read it. It came out in 2019. It is joyful and happy and compelling, and I encourage everyone to pick it up and check it out. So that is The Poet X by Elizabeth Acevedo. And if you like this book, she has several others also written in verse. So those are my 5 on Friday for this week, all tributes to poems and poetry for April, which is Poetry Month. I hope you enjoy them. And if you need any other recommendations, please come in and see me, give me a call, send me an email. And if there's a 5 theme that you want me to feature, please let me know. I will see you again soon. Have a great weekend.